Lestat de Lioncourt, you son of a bitch. Welcome to another brand new edition of T Watches a Scary Movie. My name is T, and of course we are talking scary movies. I appreciate y'all tuning in for another brand new episode. Remember, new episodes go up every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, but I'm always releasing extra horror content throughout the entire week on my channel, so the best way to stay on top of all of that is to get subscribed to my Linktree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/T Scary Movie. If you get subscribed to my Linktree, that's going to give you access to the video versions of the show through my YouTube page, to your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for my movie rankings throughout the year, as well as my movie reviews, to my TikTok page for my short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for my horror gaming, and to my Fangoria shop page, where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop, including a subscription to their physical magazine. So take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button, especially if you're watching on YouTube, as more subscribers I get, more content that I'm putting out for all of you. And as we close out season 2 of Interview with the Vampire, it's not the last episode, we still got one more after this here, but folks, as we close this out here, I think that it's probably finally time for us to take a look at Mayfair Witches, because with the announcement of the Talamasca TV show, I think it's better that we're a little well-rounded, so we know more of the back lore that we need to have going in the next year. Oh God, that is a spider on my camera. Good Christ. Oh, no. As I was saying before that, Spider decided to gamble its own life away, folks. We are just about here at the end of season 2 of Interview with the Vampire. We got one more episode left out of the one that we were talking about tonight. I could not prevent it. And I think that we are going to go ahead and jump into Mayfair Witches, because with AMC announcing that we're adding to the Immortal universe, that we're getting a series based around the Talamasca, that likely means that Interview is going to get that season 3 renewal. Mayfair Witches is going to have that second season, and so we need to be a little bit better rounded with the folklore for Interview with the Vampire. So folks, we are going to be jumping into Mayfair Witches a little bit later on this summer, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. But as I said, we have some Interview with the Vampire to talk about here tonight. Tonight's episode, episode 7, the penultimate episode. I could not prevent it. Last week's episode, like the light by which God made the world before he made light, this really focused on the breaking of Louis and Claudia's relationship, that finally these two were going to move in firmly separate directions away from each other. Claudia was begging Louis to make her new companion Madeline, who was completely devoted to her, whereas Louis was seeking to live away with Armand and to really get to pursue that relationship. Both of these things had been strained over the course of season 2, and this was kind of like the clean break that both parties needed in order to really set off in their new lives free of responsibility from each other. But the problem is that there's no way this was going to be a simple break, because as we've seen over the course of this season as well too, Louis and Claudia have been kind of on their heels running a lot of the time, because we know that there's a lot of people who, if they find out where they're from and what they've done, would have some very big issues with them. Case in point, the vampire troupe here in Paris. There was only so long that Louis and Claudia were going to be able to get by, whether it was under Armand's protection or their own lies. They can only survive with that for so long, and unfortunately, things finally came to a head last week, to where we find out that Armand betrayed them all to the vampire troupe, who took captive Louis, Claudia, and Madeline to stand trial for what happened to Lestat. But what makes this all the more interesting is the fact that Lestat himself showed up at the end of the episode to take part in this trial. So Lestat is not dead. He has made his long-awaited return after tormenting Louis' psyche for the entire season, and with him and Claudia living with this burden of killing Lestat and having to carry this secret amongst others who would very well kill them for learning this, everything is now finally on the table. We are setting the stage for the tragedy that has to come. And we know there had to be some great tragedy coming because we've talked bits and pieces this season about Armand's involvement with that. We have seen the photos of the theater burnt down as well too. So something bad was absolutely coming for everybody back in Paris. And unfortunately, that time here is now. Santiago, who is now crowned the new head of the Vampire Coven, he has taken it over at this point, has managed to imprison Armand to where he must watch everything that's going on. And again, Louis Claudia and the newly turned Madeline are now set to stand trial for their various crimes across the years to the rest of vampire culture. Now, this is the hard part to it all because we've learned about these rules. We've heard about these rules, these laws that the vampires follow, and we had to know that at some point this was going to catch up, at the very least, to Claudia. Whether or not Louis was actually going to face anything, I think a lot of us could work with skepticism, because whether it's the relationship with Armand, whether it's the relationship with Lestat, we kind of already knew that Louis would be protected in some kind of way. Which is unfortunate, and it's tragic because Claudia finds herself the one that's at the mercy of her captors yet again, and having to rely on somebody else to potentially save her from another one of these situations. And it's just absolutely tragic because one of the main things this trial proves is how Claudia is just really just a pawn in the game of Louis and Lestat's love, relationship, abuse, drama, whatever you want to call it. Claudia has been a continued pawn over and over and over and over. And it's hard not to feel the heartbreak for Claudia when it comes to these relationships. Her maker, Lestat, couldn't care less. She's an object to him. To Louis, she was just just something to bring his spirits up, basically. It's not even that Louis necessarily wanted to care for Claudia, and he absolutely cares for her now. But it wasn't something that Louis even really necessarily wanted for Claudia's sake. It was more so for his own sake, and to lie to Claudia like that. And I think the big solace that we can get out of this is that no matter what Louis does, no matter what Lestat does, no matter what Armand does, no matter what this entire coven does, the one saving grace here for Claudia is the fact that somebody finally chose her. That Madeline, who is treated so inconsequential to everything that's happening, which just continues the tragedy of her own life and the pain that she's had to endure over her own years, was given an opportunity, even in violation of all these laws that have been broken. Madeline was given the opportunity to join the coven and renounce Louis and Claudia and save her own life. And rather than do that, because she doesn't really know Louis and Claudia. I mean, I get it. At this point, the idea is that they've been together for a little bit at this time here, but it doesn't change the fact that Madeline still chooses to go out with Claudia, that she announces that Claudia is her family, Claudia is her coven, and that she will not turn her back on Claudia. And the love you can just see there from it, because there's been some great times for Louis and Claudia for sure. And at times there were even some great moments between Lestat, Claudia, and Louis back in New Orleans as well too. Every now and then there's a moment of happiness, but to see Madeline just completely show how big her love for Claudia is, her devotion, and that she chooses her amongst all of this, knowing it is the cost of her life that she's this baby vampire, she's this fledgling, and yet and still she's going to give her life immediately for her love. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's so sad, again, to see the course of Madeline's life, just in the sake of she deserved like to have so much more. On another standpoint, it's amazing that she gets to go out in love and gets to go out with the person that means the most on this earth to her. Like, that's absolutely phenomenal. But there's still that sadness when you look back at Madeline's life and see the way that it ends this time. And Claudia, Delaney has just taken this role and elevated it, and that's in no disrespect at all to Bailey Bass, who played Claudia in season 1, because she did an amazing job in the role. She absolutely did this amazing job with it. But Delaney Hales has just knocked it out of the park completely. And her last bit of defiance, because over the course of this trial, you know, we find out that the true paths sliced the Achilles tendons of their captives so they can't get away, and that anytime they're trying to speak out or resist what's going on, that they're using some kind of psychic attacks against them, so they can't really coordinate themselves or talk or hear or really understand all that much. And through all of it, Claudia refuses to give this troop any kind of satisfaction at all, knowing that in defiance of everything that's happening, she's still going to be herself. She's still going to do what she wants to do, and that is to be defiant and to show that they can't get a tear from her. And one of the best moments of the entire series, because I didn't know where it was going, to where she's looking out amongst this human audience, and she asked for this last request for this man to remove his top hat because he was blocking the face of the man behind him, so she could memorize everybody's face in that audience and let them know that she'll find a way to come back and kill them all. And it's only something that Claudia could say. It's only something that Claudia could truly mean. And I fully believe it, honestly. It would not shock me 2 seasons down the line, Claudia shows back up and murders every single one of those people that was in the audience. That would not shock me in the least bit. Bravo, Delaney Hales. Amazing in the role of Claudia. Just absolutely mind-blowing. And that's only a part of the episode, y'all. Like, we've learned very much this season. Louis is not a trusted narrator at all. And it's funny, because I was watching this episode, I started saying to myself, like, man, you know what? Thankfully, Louis is much more trustworthy in present times, because we're learning that a lot of the shit that he said in the past, you can take with a grain of salt. And the moment after that, after I was thinking that to myself, we find out a shocking revelation that what we saw back in season 1, when it came to the siring of Claudia, turning Claudia into a vampire, did not actually happen the way we saw it in season 1 at all. And that in reality, and here's the thing about it, it doesn't matter if you remember that scene or not. You should. It's an amazing scene for sure. But the thing is that this episode told us without question here, that there is a definitive telling of how Claudia was sired, and that's that Louis pushed Lestat into doing it. This was not something that was a back and forth decision, and was with love and understanding, and that Louis was innocent or he was ignorant of all these laws that were being broken and the danger it could put them all in, or what it would do to Claudia herself. And we find out because Lestat is his own star witness in this trial, which already makes it a bit of a farce. But the problem is that Lestat is bringing quite a lot of truth to this trial as well too, including regaling the audience of how Claudia was turned in the first place, and that Lestat told Louis that it was against the laws, that Claudia's mind would be broken because her mind would mature and her soul would mature, and her wants and desires and her needs, but her body would stay the same, and people would treat her like that as well. That she couldn't be a actual person. She couldn't mature. She couldn't have a full life. That Lestat warned Louis that this would be hell for her and for them, that they'd be violating the very laws of mankind to do this. Lestat warned him, he begged him not to, and then Louis, who failed the attempt to do it himself, forced Lestat's hand to do this. And that was shocking in itself, because I think that a lot of us came into this trial really expecting that, of course, it was going to be a farce, and that Santiago, Lestat, and the rest of the troop were going to say and do anything in order to make sure that no matter what, the curtain would fall on Claudia, Louis, and Madeline. Like, there was no way they were getting out of any of this. But the fact that Lestat kept going off script and kept adding in like actual revelations, actual truth to this process, it showed that even with the abuse, even with all the terribleness that Lestat brought to Claudia and to Louis, that he still does, he at one point had this genuine love for Louis, no matter how evil or misguided it was at certain times, and that he put him through hell. He absolutely put him through hell, but there was some love there. And to the second point, that it shows that we can't trust a word Louis is saying. Louis has proven himself to not be a truthful storyteller when regaling these facts. And it's kind of like crazy to think that at this point, Armand is a much more trustworthy narrator than Louis is, because he's either hiding things, misremembering things, or having things taken from his own mind. And that makes all this that much more interesting, including the fact that we get to see Lestat in modern times in Dubai while this interview is happening. Now, that doesn't let us know whether or not this is just another one of like the hallucinations that Louis has been having over the course of season 2, which he does address in this episode as well, or whether or not this is just him seeing, like, you know, Lestat from back in Paris, just, you know, kind of in today's age. We don't really know. But again, the idea here is that Louis is just not a trustworthy voice for us on this show anymore. And we have to really remember that as we come into the final episode and move into season 3. Because it's insanity. That's insanity to think that we've been listening to Louis tell these stories for 2 seasons now, and he's gotten less and less trustworthy, that the words coming out of his mouth hold less and less meaning, and that has to be leading into something huge with all of this. But finally, we're left with the ultimate tragedy of this episode. Now, the episode is titled I Could Not Prevent It, and I had mentioned a couple weeks back that it seemed very much to be talking a lot about how Armand betrayed them and that he couldn't prevent the death of Claudia. And while a lot of that is true, it ends up being so much worse, because the idea definitely is that Armand didn't really have much of a choice. That had he not betrayed Claudia and Louis and Madeline, that the troop probably would have caught up to him and found them anyway and would have killed all of them. And so Armand jealously made a deal to protect Louis from this, knowing that it was his only chance to prevent Louis' death. There was nothing at all he could do for Claudia. That the fact that the moment Claudia was made a vampire, her death was written in stone. It was absolutely going to happen. But there was always going to be this chance with Louis for him to save him. And he finds a way, because he's being guarded by the troop that he no longer is in charge of anymore. And he uses his powers at the last minute to stop the death pronunciation, because again, this farce of a trial is being carried out in front of a human audience. The human audience is they're being subjected to it. They get to play their own role, including in to ask for the death sentence for Claudia and Madeline. And as they're about to ask for it for Louis, instead Armand gets the crowd using his powers to ask for banishment instead, which ends up being an even worse fate, as we see that Louis is tucked away inside a coffin that's filled with rocks, and he's placed into the crypt of the vampire troop, where he's meant to live out his remaining days, dying from thirst in madness. Insanity, this episode, y'all. Absolute insanity. And heartbreaking that we spent all this time with Claudia, and it looks like she's gone now. And I still have hopes. I still have hopes that Claudia could return end of next season. You know, something tying in with some of these vampire agents that I think we're about to start seeing in the show. Like, I really do hope that Claudia does turn back up. But if that's it for now, she's come in and made such an impact on all of us watching this here. And again, whether it's Bailey Bass, whether it's Delaney Hales, you two have done an amazing job in this role. Thank you for gifting us the role of Claudia, our vampire princess. And yeah, folks, that is going to do it for this episode here tonight. This was a tough one for sure, but Interview with the Vampire remains the best show on television, folks. And I'm excited to get to the season finale with y'all next week. Thank you for taking this trip with me. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.
Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022 and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.